phones don't have those letters anymore next to the numbers. So it's 484-275-2229. And Abby will realize that she doesn't know your cell phone number, and she'll ask you a few questions to try to find you in our database to see if you are an approved writer. If you're not, then she will helpfully send you an email with instructions on how to begin your registration process, which basically just involves writing a sample postcard and then taking a picture of it with your camera phone and emailing it to us so we can read that you understand and follow the rules. And then after that, when you're approved, Abby will just ask you which campaign, are you interested in, and how many addresses would you like. And when you answer those questions, you'll get the instructions, the talking points for that particular campaign, so you know what to say or what to write, and the number of addresses that you want. You'll get that on your text screen on your phone, but she'll also automatically email it to you, so that you, if it's too cumbersome to work with your small screen, you can open it up in email, print it out, share it with your friends if you're having a party or if you're having a couple people help you. It's very convenient.
Yeah, I love Abby.
We need to get some buttons or something for Abby because she's got
Yes,
a little
definitely.
following. And well, thank you very much. We're very proud of what we've created. Abby nowadays, there's an option on the menu. You select the option 8, I think, and she'll tell you how many postcards she's helped you write from the beginning, from your first days. And so you'll see each campaign. She'll tell you how many addresses she gave you, and it's fun to see how you've contributed, and in all the different ways you've contributed as a postcard writing volunteer. We think that's important for people to know that they're making a difference and that they're appreciated as a volunteer writer.
Yeah, I didn't realize you could do that, so I've just done that while you were talking. And
Well, share us your stats. Come on and tell
so
us.
she sent me 130 addresses for Doug Jones, 5 for Teresa Davis, and 20 for Mary
Okay.
Alice Carfee. So
Oh, that's
155
wonderful.
addresses I've gotten.
That is really, really good. And what's nice is that a lot of those addresses are going to have more than one Democrat that live at them.
Yeah, yeah.
So, your potential reach is even greater than that. And when people who receive these postcards, they sometimes post about them on social media
Mm-hmm.
because it's so unusual to get a handwritten postcard these days from anybody. And we've also seen where people will talk about it, and people will be wondering, well, when am I going to get my postcard? So there's this buzz that gets created in neighborhoods and among circles of Democratic friends around this whole phenomenon, and we've seen it repeat over and over again. We've heard from candidates and campaigns when they go canvassing, going door to door. I've heard it many times that the person knocking on the door for the campaign will be answered by the voter telling them, "Oh yeah, I got one of your postcards. It's up on our refrigerator." Nobody puts glossy campaign mailers that are mass produced. Nobody puts those on their refrigerator that
Yeah.
I've ever heard of. So it's really heartwarming, and I think you and everybody else who writes just should know that your reach is beyond the actual number of postcards you write. It really is a ripple effect that happens, and so we're so thankful that you and others are hanging in there with us for campaign after campaign to help us make a difference.
Well, and it's a lot of fun too. You know, I've
Yes, it
always had
is.
a special love for office supplies, so it's given me a really good excuse to go and buy all new markers. So that's been a lot of
Oh my
fun.
goodness. We need Sharpie to hear about this and to sponsor us.
Yes, Sharpies are fantastic markers, and I've been very
Yes.
excited to get to use them. I will say though, it's surprisingly hard to find blank postcards in the stores.
We're living in a different time, aren't we, than years back? And so I know that postcards are in harder supply or shorter supply. So we kept hearing from people. Remember, we've been doing this for months now, and initially there would be places online, big name stores that online that you could buy that I'm not going to plug because I won't get anything from them. But you could go and buy a box of 100 really nice thick postcards for $4.99. And then what would happen is we started seeing people tell us that the postcard boxes were going up to $5, $6, $7, $12, $14 a box. And I think what was happening is that all these people started buying hundreds of boxes, and the computer algorithms decided to experiment with how high can the price go and people will still buy it. So that was a little disappointing to learn that our biggest volunteer fans were getting a hit in the budget, in the pocketbook, over the cost of postcards. So what we did was we had a design contest to look for a postcard design that we could make our own postcards, print them in bulk, and give it a try with a 5,000 postcard order, just to see if people would buy them from us, and we would sell them at a bargain, affordable price, just so that they could support their newfound habit, right? And we basically, like for example, 100 postcards, $5.50. So we tried that out. 5,000 of them sold out in less than 8 hours. So we were very pleased that we hadn't spent a ton of money and that we were stuck with stacks of postcards. So we have reordered, and I think we're up to now something like 60,000 postcards have been ordered over successive runs. And we're working on a second and third design to try to, give people some variety. But so that's out there. And I know that there are some people that find postcards at thrift shops, secondhand stores, estate sales, eBay. Sometimes people are creating them out of cardstock that they get at the dollar stores. So there are a lot of ingenious ways. And if you go to our Facebook page or even to our website, which is postcardstovoters.org, there's a section on tips about postcards, how to buy them, how to find them, how to make them. And you'll see lots of photos of cards that our volunteers have shared. And what's interesting is in the community of postcard writers, you'll see comments about someone saying, "Oh, I really like what you did with your bullet version, like outline of your talking points on your message. I'm going to start doing that." And then people, "Oh, I like how you highlighted the effective, the election date with a yellow marker. I can do that. I've got a yellow marker." And so it's like they're helping each other by bringing out the best ideas and the easiest ways to make a visually appealing postcard. And none of that is us, by the way. We're not telling them to do any of that. But they're having fun and bouncing things off of each other and just going with it. And that's another thing that's really magical about grassroots initiatives like this. If you give people enough leeway, the creativity will amaze you.
It's a really supportive social media community, too. I've been posting some pictures mostly on Twitter, some on Instagram, and I get such, nice comments from people and, lots of likes and retweets anytime you post. So, that's exciting. And it's sort of, it's one of those things that sort of encourages you to keep going because, it's really fun to get that validation. So that's been really cool as well. And there's been some, friendly competition too, people saying, "Oh, you only got 100 at your party. We got 102, so.
Right.
That's been pretty
people
fun.
Are really soaking this up, and then we wouldn't even be here talking today, Kelly, if it wasn't for that kind of enthusiasm from the folks. And there's just it's just a very special group of people. I was fortunate enough to meet dozens of them in person when I was in New York a couple of weekends ago, and it was just such a treat. I mean, I see all of you through email and on Facebook and all that, and Twitter, but it's really something to be in a room with people, hearing them talk about how they got started and what it all means to them. And there's a lot of commonality in what they share and for why they do this. And I just hope we can keep growing and keep connecting with more people, because as much as the volunteers who've been doing this, like you, are getting out of it, we can give that sort of opportunity or gift, if you will, to many, many more people who will enjoy the heck out of it, just like you are. So we just need to keep spreading the word.
Yeah, and I've been taking to every time I write a postcard, I write on it as well, here's how you can join us. So, I'm hoping
Thanks.
that people who see that are,
We
sort of
have.
excited. And
It's hard to measure exactly. How many people,
hmm
because if they don't tell us that they're joining because of a postcard, then we wouldn't know. But there have been some people that have reached out that said, "I'm writing you because I got a postcard." I don't know if you've heard this story, but maybe some of your listeners have not heard it. When we wrote postcards to support Phil Miller, the veterinarian in Iowa, who, by all accounts, was not supposed to win that special election state legislature seat, because Trump had won it by double digits just a few months, back in November. So people were very nervous, and the Democratic Party in Iowa was very nervous about us going in there to write postcards, because they knew that there were Trump Democrats in that rural district.
Mm.
And so we worked together with them very closely to carve out a list of really the bluest, strongest Democrats that they could find for us. And we wrote every single one of those voters twice. Two different volunteers sent a postcard to them. So it was a little bit, you might have said, oh, that's a little bit of an overkill. But it was a small list to begin with, so we wrote it twice. No big deal. And what ended up happening was that the local campaign office for this, for Dr. Miller, they started having people walk in with postcards and say, "How did you guys organize this? Because I'm getting postcards. I'm getting 2 postcards from different parts of the country. How did you do that?" And the people in the office, because we weren't working directly with them, we were working with the party, they didn't know anything about it, so they were just as surprised. They started taping the postcards up in the windows of the storefront campaign office. They ran out of space. They started taping it to the wall, to one of the walls in the hallway of the office. And when the campaign was over, fortunately, he won very, very nicely. He won. And then we actually received a note from one of those campaign volunteers that said, "Because of what you guys did for us, we were so touched that a bunch of us now have signed up with you, and we're going to keep writing postcards into other places right alongside, so that we can do for them what you guys did for us."
That's such a touching story.
I'm getting a little choked up. I'm glad you spoke up, so it didn't come across. But they're still with us. They're still with us, and that's the kind of thing that you just can't predict that's going to happen. And when you hear about that or other stories we've heard of, it's just really validating, and it fuels us to keep going.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I also, on the maybe not as uplifting, every time I get really mad at politics, mad at what's going on in the world, I text Abby and say, "Okay, send me 5 more addresses," and sort of
Well, then you
fuel.
should be up into the 500s by now. That 100
I've
or
only
something,
been at
that's
it a
not
couple
high
weeks.
enough.
But yeah, every
All
time
right,
I
well,
get
you got
mad,
some
I'm like,
catching up to do.
all right, I'm going to take all this rage and I'm going to channel it into something good. I think one of the best parts about it, and one of the reasons it sort of takes my rage and makes me, happy again, is that all of the messages are positive. It's all positive
I was
things
just about
about the
to say,
candidate.
yep.
Yeah. And that I think is really great. It's not, here's what's terrible about the other guy. It's let's go out and vote for this great candidate we have, and this is why this person's great.
Because we are talking to Democrats about an election where on the ballot there's only one Democrat. There's only one choice for them. It's not like there's 3 Democrats running or, whatever. It's one Democrat. And so we don't really need to spend any time